So is iTalki good? Even if you are a beginner, how should you use it? When should you use it? In this video, I'm gonna break it down and make sure to give you the best tips to make sure that you get the most out of iTalki, even if you are a beginner. Hey, Genevieve here, language coach trying to help you learn a language faster, make it more fun, and help you get out in the world and actually speak, because that's the cool part. So iTalki is a platform that connects you, the language learner, to tutors that can help you learn or practice speaking the language. And if you're a beginner, you might be thinking, well, how am I gonna practice speaking the language when I don't even know the language? The math doesn't exactly add up here. Now, how you use iTalki, especially as a beginner, advanced beginner, whatever your level is, that depends on your language learning goals, and I'll make sure to cover all that, so stay tuned. And now, even if you are a beginner, I have some tips for you on how to best use iTalki, whatever level you are, even as a beginner. So actually, I asked some tutors what are their students like on iTalki, and they said that most are actually beginners. So if you are more of a beginner, you're definitely with a group of other people who are in the same boat as you. And if that's the case, I have some tips for you. So first thing you might want to look for is on iTalki, you might see that there are professional teachers and community tutors. What's the difference? They both can definitely be helpful, but this depends on your language learning goals. A community tutor is somebody who can have a guided conversation with you. It might be more casual. They can give you feedback, but a professional teacher is somebody who has had training. They might be a teacher of that language in a different country, and they often can give you more feedback, more structure, perhaps worksheets. Now, you definitely can get great value with either one. It depends more on your language learning goals and your learning style. But if you are more on the beginner side and or you like that sort of structure, you like specific activities that you can do to practice the language, then you might want to go for a professional teacher that can provide you with those sorts of things. Now, I will say some community tutors also have those resources, so I wouldn't discount anybody. I would ask them what their teaching style is so you can get to know. First tip, especially if you're a beginner, but also helpful for any level, is try to look for somebody who has more experience, and you can get a gauge of that to see when you look at how many lessons they have taught. This is in their profile. Now, you don't have to go with somebody that has had 4,000 lessons, but especially if you are a beginner, you might be a better idea to have somebody with experience rather than somebody who's just starting out. Now, just to say, I've had great conversations with people just starting out on iTalki. And by the way, just because they're new on iTalki doesn't mean they're new to teaching. They could be teaching for years and just new to the platform. The one thing that you want to look out for, though, is do they have experience with beginners? Because a lot of the times, think about a native speaker. There are some native speakers that are excited when you're learning their language and they want to help you and they can guide you and they can speak slower and these sorts of things that are really helpful when you are first learning a language, that are essential to having it go well and to have a good conversation. Now, there are other native speakers that mean well, but maybe are not used to speaking to beginners. They speak how they normally speak, and it's harder for a beginner to understand. So if you're looking for a tutor, it might be good to try to find someone who has more experience overall and or especially experience with beginners. So they know the struggles that beginners have. They know how to change their words, their rate of speech, things like that. And actually, I've taught beginners for many years, so I know how you should change the things that you say, the way that you should get some feedback, the hurdles that some people, most all people, all of us have to overcome in order to then be able to feel comfortable speaking the language. So especially if you are more in the beginning stages of learning a language, it is useful to talk to somebody who has more experience overall or who has experience with beginners. But the main thing that's so important, professional teacher, community tutor, everything else, is how do you vibe with the person? This is so key. And does their teaching style match your learning style? There are a lot of different tutors on iTalki, and a lot of them will adapt their lesson to what you're looking for, which is great. But it depends on what is your language learning goal. Do you want more structure? Do you want it to be a casual conversation? And I've had a lot of great experiences on iTalki and great conversations with really helpful, fun, friendly, personable tutors. So actually I did another video on reviewing iTalki, and make sure you stick around to the end of that video because then I give you some key tips on how to find an amazing tutor for you. So after this video, make sure to check that one out. But one thing you could do is message them, right? You can either go for it and book a lesson, because it's really easy to book a lesson on iTalki, or if you want to, if you're not sure, if you have some questions, message the person. You can actually message them in English most of the time and just ask, what is your style? I'm looking for X. Can you do that? Those sorts of things. If you're not sure, if you're looking just to have a casual conversation, then you can say that. Or if you can ask, hey, do you have worksheets? I'd like to practice this topic. You can do that too. So how should you use iTalki? There are 3 main different ways that you can use iTalki depending on what your language learning goals are. That can be adapted to your language learning level, even if you are a beginner. All right, most structure, especially if you're starting out, if you don't know the language just yet or want to learn something, you can ask your tutor to teach you something. Now, you can just show up to a lesson. A lot of times they already have things ready, they have a sequence. However, if you want to learn something specific, you can ask that too. So in this case, they would provide materials to teach you a topic, then you'd practice a topic. And I know people who do this. They exclusively are learning a language on iTalki. They have frequent classes. It's great for them because it gives them structure, reliable, it keeps them on track, and it's also way cheaper than having an in-person class. Level 2 with a little more freedom is you learn a language on your own. You don't need to go with the first method. That is just an option that some people take, especially if you want to make sure it happens. It's easy to book a class, make sure that it keeps you in line. But what you could do is learn the language on your own through another means, whatever stage you're at with your resource, then go into the iTalki session and practice what you learned on your own. And this is actually a pretty common way to use iTalki as well, because you can learn whatever you want on your own and then come into the session with an idea to practice it. Now, again, if you just show up to a session, tutors can give you something. They can give you topics, they can have games, they can have resources. You don't need to show up prepared. This is only if you want to work on a specific thing. And the third way to use iTalki is just chill, relax, just have a conversation. A lot of the people on iTalki are fun, interesting people, and it's just fun to have a conversation with them. So if you want to, you can ask for feedback, but you can choose your level of structure versus casual. If you want to just have a casual conversation to work on your speaking skills, iTalki is amazing for that. You can let it flow wherever the conversation goes. You can pick a topic if you want to. You can have them pick a topic. If you want to ask for feedback, you can. If you want to just chit chat, you can do that too. It all depends on you and what you're looking for. So if you're more of a beginner, you might need a little more structure. However, again, up to you. And if you're more of intermediate advanced, you might be focusing more on conversation. And again, it depends on your learning style. Do you want that structure versus do you want to just let it flow and have a conversation? Oh, another tip, if you are a beginner, depends on your level, you might want to look for a tutor that also speaks English or your native language. So if you happen to get stuck, they can explain certain things in English. Now, while you're learning a language, you want to work your way up to as much of speaking in the target language as possible. But when you're a beginner, there's not a lot you're working with. So you do what you can, you build up from there. And if you are more on the beginner side, but actually even intermediate, you might want to look for someone that has some skill in your native language. Oh, and also something you might not have thought of why iTalki is good, even for beginners, is it is motivating. It's very easy to be learning a language and the language exists in the book or on your phone or in a bubble. But then when you actually start speaking to other people who speak the language, it is so motivating. You might feel very motivated to learn more, to keep going. It's like rocket fuel. So instead of on the phone, you're actually talking to another human, which reminds you, oh yeah, this language exists in the world and there are other humans that speak it. And it's really cool when you can start to connect with them. So as soon as it is possible, even at a beginner level, I would highly encourage you to get out and start speaking and start meeting at least people who speak the language that you're learning. You'll find it is super motivating. So don't forget to check out that video that I did going over more features of iTalki, and also it includes how to find a great tutor for you that fits your language learning needs. By the way, I have a discount code for iTalki. Last I checked, if you get $20 in credits, you get 10 for free, which is enough to cover a session, actually sometimes even two whole hours, possibly, of talking to somebody online. So if you're interested in that, check the description. So if you found value in this video, give it a like, stick around, subscribe, join the fam for more tips on learning languages, all things language learning related, and how to get in the world break out in the world and speak. So leave a comment. What do you think about iTalki? And what do you think about this blue light? It's kind of cool, right? Blue. Ooh, I can change the color on an app. Kind of cool. Getting fancy here. Oh, if you happen to be randomly curious, I'll drop the link in the description. Happy language learning. Until next time. Catch you soon. Blooper. I don't know if I'll use it, but it's a blooper. If you found video in the like, then subscribe. And personally, teaching beginners, I really see. And I think I'm done. Hey.